What if the secret to success wasn't just talent or hard work, but unshakable confidence? Welcome to Grasp Confidence, the podcast where visionary thought leaders, speakers, and entrepreneurs unlock the mindset and strategies for lasting success. I'm your host, Tara LaFawn Gooch, CEO, two-time best-selling author, and international TEDx speaker, and I can't wait to help you step into the most powerful version of yourself. Let's dive in. Get ready to meet the woman behind over 60 published books, a former tech CEO turned literary powerhouse. Meet Liza Marie Garcia, an unstoppable six-time author, founder of one of the first telecom service firms in the U.S., and now a leader in faith-driven entrepreneurship. From boardrooms to book tours, she's helping authors and CEOs alike find their voice and impact the world. Stay tuned because you're about to grasp confidence in an entirely different way. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh my goodness, Tara. Thank you for that intro. I'm so happy to be chatting with you this morning. Thank you.
Wow, quite an interesting background. Former tech CEO turned literary powerhouse. That sounds like a story in itself, and I would love to learn a little bit about how you made that bridge because a lot of our listeners are high-performing leaders, they're CEOs, a lot of them are executives as well. And there's so many people out there searching for their next. Maybe they're in a place of they're in a company, but they're not sure what to do. They're searching for fulfillment and purpose. So I would love for you to take us back a little bit to that tech CEO period and how you decided this was your next step.
Yes, I will. So I was thinking that the funny one sentence answer, which we will do more than that, is that I said yes. But it is a common trait, as you know, with entrepreneurs and founders and C-suites that many things happen because you did say yes and you said, and I'll figure all the details out later. But both of my journeys in terms of starting my first company at 27 involved that. So I was, my first job out of college was as an IBM software engineer. And it was a job that was given to me when I did some internship for IBM in admin, and they offered me the job. So I said yes to that. But what birthed my tech company was that I quit my job as an engineer, and they asked for me to come back. And that birthed my first tech company, brought that to market in year 16, thought I was going to stay in tech forever. I started a second company with a large contract here in Tampa with Verizon. And the next thing I know, I'm landing some big clients, but nothing new is coming to that second company in terms of contracts. So what put me into book publishing is I had joined a marketing program, and this is now 11 years, maybe a little bit more than that ago, when I was in the midst of my second company startup that said, okay, this is what you need to do. You need your digital marketing to be set. You need to increase your profile. You need to work on your profile because in the days I started, people didn't know CEOs' names, right? People didn't know, there wasn't like the term of VCs wasn't a common term. I mean, it was such a different landscape many years ago, dating myself. But when I enrolled in this marketing program in Tampa, one of the things they said was key was you need to write your business brand book or you're going to be left behind. It's the new business card. And now this is like 12 years ago. So as you've seen as a fellow book author yourself, the landscape for people publishing, writing, promoting their book increased by a gazillion %, right? Just in those 12 years. So the entree for me to be into book publishing, just to get to the end here, the entree for me to be getting into book publishing is as I was there was like 35 of us in the group and only 2 of us actually did the book. I was one of them. As I was writing my first book, Never Drink Coffee During a Business Meeting, which is my tales of employees and case studies in my tech company over the years. As I was writing and promoting that, I met a gal who had a dream of starting a book publishing company. So course of events led to 2 of us co-founding the company, I could see that something wasn't really working with my second tech company. And I was the capital, I was the COO, I was the business development person. She had to just take care of the writing and editing piece of it, which I didn't know, didn't have much experience other than writing my first book with editors. And that is, we're starting on our ninth year next month. And actually, the bio now needs to be updated because we're about over 80 titles. So that's how I got into book publishing.
Oh. So I want to just honor that journey. You said yes. And how often in life are we presented with a path that we know is aligned with us? We know that we can excel at, and we still get scared and don't take action. We let self doubt, imposter syndrome, we let other people's opinions, a lack of experience, a lack of industry know how take over, compile, and tell ourselves all the reasons we can't do something instead of finding all the reasons we can and should do something. So, just the fact that you just said, yes, I love you for that, because that's what it looks like to just jump. And that takes a lot of guts, right?
So there's two elements really I think that are important that seem to come up with me in conversations and with others that I are in my network. One is the risk taker attribute, right? So we talked about this saying yes as an entrepreneur and founder. And by the way, I love business books to read myself. I've been reading them since I was in high school. And so, there's this, and one of our authors actually wrote, a professor of entrepreneurship, wrote a book that outlines 30 years of entrepreneur behaviors. So I learned an immense part of that. But one of the behaviors that's common is a risk taker, right? So I recognized that in myself early on, and even the idea that I relocated from Seattle, Washington, on this side of the U.S. to Tampa, Florida, on almost the extreme side of the U.S. Never being there, no family, no friends. But what I knew and what I would say when I was moving there, when people were like, "Are you kidding me? You're moving to Tampa?" I said, "What's the worst case?" So it's the calculated risk, right? What's the worst case? The worst case is I moved there and I brought my two little daughters with me, my crumbs, and I said we move back in a year. Cut to 12 years later, we love it. I'm never moving back. But risk taking, it is definitely a characteristic. But going back to another thing that you said that something resonated in my mind, I remembered. Um, Not we all know the influence of social media. We all know the influence of others' opinions, and especially those that you value and respect. And a lot of times that comes from our family, and then how those words can hurt. The criticism of those words can hurt as well. So, not to lessen what that impact is on a person. I mean, I can't say to you, honestly, today, it doesn't matter to me what someone says. That's not really the truth. But what I do is put it in perspective, right? And someone told me this years ago, and I remember this phrase, I loved it. There was someone on my team that had more experience in publishing than I did. And she happened to be a negative type person, and she happened to criticize and judge and throw things out. And, I'd already had 18 years as a CEO in my tech company. So, dynamics and managing other people and all that. I thought I had it pretty much under control. But, it was still there, and the comments were there, and it was just ever present. And someone told me this sentence and I loved it. They said, never take constructive criticism from someone that hasn't constructed anything.
Ooh,
Right? And
right.
put the perspective of what is that person's experience in exactly what they are criticizing, judging you, just to know. And then it goes back to what we all know, hurting people hurt people, people that are insecure are going to lash out. I mean, we know those fundamentally, but I probably heard that term 10 years ago, and I just go back to it when something seems to escalate. And it's just
Yeah.
true.
It's funny. It's the people who are tremendously successful, the people who have really built something, that never look down at somebody trying, never look down at somebody starting. they praise them and tell them to keep going. The most successful people I've ever met, and I've had the privilege of interviewing people that are 8 and 9-figure companies on this show, and they are more supportive, more excited than people who have never been on a podcast before and never done something like this before. They really, really encourage you on a different level. And it's interesting that you say this and bring this up because I posted about this morning, and this was before our conversation, that, sometimes if our voice shakes more at the family dinner table, or if we go to our family and tell them something and it shakes more than if we're on a stage of 1,000 people, this is a normal thing. And I feel like it's God's way of telling us that we need to grow more, that we need to help more people, because sometimes strangers are the best supporters and the people that are closest to us aren't, right? It's so important to, think about these things because, I said to somebody just yesterday, a prophet is never appreciated in their homeland. It's true, right?
Yeah, well, you probably even experienced that with TEDx speakers, in the work that you do. It's, an out of town TEDx speaker just seems to have a little elevation above a local one where, not even comparing the substance or who they are. But, I'm glad you brought the name God up in this conversation. And as you taught, I also have met some, 8-digit type people, definitely 7-digit and above type people. And one of them I worked for, I was the president of his Christian organization in Tampa. And I will tell you, that guy, nothing is about him that is about him.
Right.
He has what we know biblically, or as Christian leaders, as a servant heart. And that is what we are here to do. We are not to elevate ourselves. We are not, which is hard to say in digital marketing and the marketing promotion. Yes, we are to make a living and we are to prosper and be blessed with clients and all of that. But really, we are not here for ourselves. We're here for the purpose that we're giving, but we're also here to help and elevate others. And I've been blessed in this book publishing company now that I meet amazing people with amazing stories. And honestly, there's times where I am like especially the first conversation with them, when I am saying to God in my spirit, thank you, God. Are you kidding me? You want me to help, bring this story to light in the world? And that really is my role. And I'm definitely blessed to have that kind of a job.
I love
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
When you make your customer the hero and not you,
right.
you will never have a shortage of clients.
Yep.
And it's all about elevating and serving other people. I really believe that. It's a mindset, it's a posture that comes from understanding that servant mentality, right? That comes from aligning with God's attributes. It's not about us. It's about putting others first, serving others highly, honoring people, and then doing it in a way that really drives attention back, not to ourselves, but to our creator. I think that's really important, right? And if you have that servant mentality, again, you'll have no shortage of customers. You'll have no shortage of people come to you. Your business will flourish. And it may not be instant success, but nothing instant success is ever long withstanding anyway. So this is what we're talking about, is actually sustainable success, is it not?
100%. And, again, first, when people say the word success, I don't think about money. It's, people think that success equals money. It doesn't. I mean, money is a factor and a part of it. Money brings an element to it, but it is not money. I am a successful person. And I'm not on here bragging that I'm a gazillionaire and just can go and pay for whatever I want at the time. So, that is one mindset. But I have to smile when we're talking about, understanding the posture of, servant leadership, because so I'm in a season right now that it's right in front of me to keep me reminded about how it's not about the person because I'm a mom of two daughters in universities that are, let's see, one of them just turned 20 and the other is, does she turn 19? 18 and a half. It's horrible. But it's all about them right now,
Yeah.
and it is, in their mindset and in how they act and what they say and what they prioritize. And so as a mom of that, I see it. And many times it's like, okay, yes, there's a little part of that. And just having empathy to know, of course it is. It's their age group and it's all the changes in their life. But it doesn't mean that it's right and it's the right way of things that they're looking at and doing. So it's like my mothering part is always like, you know, just as a silly example, I will say to one of my daughters when she might be frustrated that I'm not tending to something of her right then, I'll say, look at the clock. It's Monday through Friday. I'm in the middle of my work day. I will take care of it. I mean, it's very basic and they know all of that, but it's you learn a lot when you're faced with something like that, whatever you're trying to work through it. And that's kind of the goodness of God, where He will kind of put you somewhere and you're like frustrated with it, but it's so that you can understand it better and you can learn more about it. So,
Oh my gosh, I love that. My daughter's 9. She's at
mm,
home for the summer, right? And
yeah,
it makes me think, we don't talk about this enough. How difficult it can be sometimes to be a parent and an entrepreneur, right? It's definitely not easy. And I mean, I find myself, my schedule almost gets cut in half during the summer. And you know what? That's a good
yeah,
thing. It's nothing that I'm complaining about, but there is a lot of um, sacrifice that entrepreneurs do, especially women, I feel like, that goes often unnoticed, unappreciated, right? Unseen, unheard. But it's powerful to share these things because we do have we do have some sacrifice there. And again, it's a beautiful thing, but I think we don't talk about it enough. I think there's a lot of women entrepreneurs and leaders out there struggling to balance it all, right?
yeah. No, and it's kind of that thing. I mean, I have been a full-time working mom for my daughter's entire life. Now, did I set out for that? Not necessarily. I knew I wanted to be a mom. I was married 10 years before we had our first daughter. And as things would have it, that saying of be careful what you say out loud or be careful what you wish for. I would say when I was running my tech company, and those were also the days in my tech company where you were getting on planes to see clients. So I was traveling all the time. I was, crazy schedule, great business success, the whole thing. So I wasn't home hardly at all. And I would say, oh, I will never have a nanny. Well, of course, I had a full time nanny for 4 years. And then a couple of years after that, that wasn't the plan, but it just was, I was still running my tech company at the time. So I'm bringing that up because, what I definitely learned, like you said, what we should talk about in our journey here as a working mom, what I was acutely aware of very early on in mothering my daughters was that they are really watching me. They are seeing how I can get frustrated with the barista and not act so great. They are seeing how I handle conflict, how I handle and juggle my schedule, every part, where do I spend and invest my time? Are we, giving our time to, a not for profit, or am I just focused on the money? And as that really came to me, and actually I wrote a book, I co-authored a book. Now you're reminding me, it's called My Calendar is Written in Crayon. And it was three working moms, and one was lower school, one was middle school, one was high school. Mine was the middle school at that time, daughters. And anyway, I learned that lesson then. And sometimes I forget it, but but I just, even now, with my daughters in university, to me, whoever you are, entrepreneur, full-time working mom, full-time mom, divorced, married, whatever that is, you want them to be the best they can be. And we all really want to be the best we can be. But if we're just thinking about them, then we know that we need to show that. There's no do this, do that, go to this school, go to that school. I mean, all those are factors, but really it comes down to they see you are modeling them and they base that on your behavior and what you do and how you move through the world.
I love that. I want to take a little segue here because there's a lot of people listening to this right now that, Lisa, they're thinking about writing their first book. They're scared. They're first off, a lot of folks, they don't know what step to take, the first step to take. Maybe they're scared of sharing their personal stories or struggles or failures. Maybe they're unsure if it will be well received. Maybe they don't even know what the first process is. As someone who has helped publish 80 incredible books, I think you're definitely the expert. So I would love to hear a little bit about just that process for somebody listening to this right now saying, is anybody even going to read this? Do I do it? When do I do it? And why do I do it? What do you think? What would you have to say to that person?
Well, all of those questions I've heard. And so I was thinking about this the other day. If I've had 200 some clients, I probably talked to 600, maybe more potential clients. And within those discussions, especially the first time, right? I can't put my arm around this big mountain called book publishing. Like, how do I get there? What's involved? What do you need from me? And then, very often is this an important, they will ask, is this an important enough topic? Is what I have to say important enough? Hasn't this been written about before? Is this even worth it? So, I mean, those are two, different items, but those questions come up a lot. And one of the things that we will say often is we really are a full service publishing house. And what that means is we can build the book from the ground up. So sometimes, not all the times, not the majority of the times, we have a client that brings their manuscript in full that they think is a first draft, and then we work from there. But more often than not, people will say, I've got this idea for a book. I have I've started the book. I've got some notepads of books. Someone told me to write a book. And that really is where we work with. In the very first meeting, we do a book build mind map and we help them build the outline. We provide the writing schedule. We coach them through the author check-in meetings. We have 3 levels of editing. We publish in every format, including audiobooks. I mean, a book needs to be available in every format. And then also we make sure a book is available everywhere books are sold. So we really do full service 100%. In fact, I like to say we provide items that the author doesn't even know they need. For instance, we bulletize their speech from stage because it was frustrating when they would thank their dog for their support, but they wouldn't actually intrigue people to buy their book, right? You know how that is. To bookmarks, to banners, to press releases, to one sheets. All the collateral it takes to be a successful book author. Well, how would they know? They've never written a book before. So that part we help, it isn't a mountain, work with the team. It will step you through it and manage you through it. And then as far as the doubt, right? Because it's really a doubt where you say, especially when you come to a meeting with us and you say, people have been telling me for years to write this story. Or, our company is so amazing and been doing such amazing work above the fray that I really, want to let the business world know about it. There's just fear when they don't think it might be good enough. And, we liken it when we have the discussion, we do dig in a little bit more. We don't publish every book that people bring to us because there's some factors and criteria that they have to meet. But when we, really break it down, we're all unique. The snowflakes, we're all unique individuals. And even though we might be in the same path with someone else, I mean, we could be even hand in hand on that same road. Our perspective, our background, our looking in, all of that is completely different and unique. And so it's about focusing on that very unique part of what your journey is, what your message is. And that's what a book should do to impact the reader.
Oh my gosh. So right on, like on every level. I think about my first book. I was scared to write it. It's a very personal book. I talk about my childhood, I talk about some trauma, and I talk about my struggles, my failures. And I wasn't sure how it would be received, but I asked myself a simple question. Will this help someone?
Right.
Will this maybe, transform somebody? And when I could answer yes to that, then it was game on.
Yeah.
And it's not about you. It's about who you can impact through your story, through your words. And if we take the spotlight off of us, to going back to servant leadership, I like to think that your story, your words, your trials that you faced, your adversities, someone out there right now who you've never met is praying for the exact solution you are offering. They're praying for you to write this book, aren't they? And
A
if you don't
thousand percent.
deliver it, if you don't put it out there, you're not answering someone else's prayers, and you would be shocked at the connection you can have with another human being that you wouldn't have had before, right?
1,000%. And maybe you don't even understand the person that was impacted by your book until later, until you get to heaven. I mean, you don't know, especially
Yeah.
international distribution. It's one of my fun things to tell a new author, hey, you got so many book orders in Japan. And they get very excited. I mean, we don't know what people in this world have read our books and are impacted by what we're doing in life.
Mm, it's so powerful, right? I mean, even just my TEDx talk that I did, and of course, my it started with my book, right? I like to tell people this because they see the TEDx talk and they get immediately intimidated. It started with my book. The book
Yeah,
became the TEDx talk that became a podcast. So it's about one thing at a time, right? And I like to say the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time.
that's
This
right.
is very similar. So it started with that, and then one of my first comments on YouTube from my TEDx talk was a lady I'll never forget. She was had childhood trauma for 30 or 40 years, and it was unresolved, and after reading my book and watching my TEDx talk, and she started gratitude practices, and for the first time in her life was able to overcome trauma that she had had for 30 and 40 years, whatever it was. And it's like, that's the value, that's the purpose, that's the impact that's
Yeah,
possible. And, at the end of our lives, we're not going to look back and say, "How much money did I make? That was a success," or "I wish I would have worked more," or "I wish I would have made
right.
more money," or "I wish I would have done this." We're going to say, "I wish I would have helped more people. I wish I would have loved more. I wish I would have gone out of my way to change people's lives."
100%. And when you said the word help, that is my, end of life. I wish I would have done more. I wish I would have helped more people. I mean, honestly, that really should be our purpose from the day we're born. We were born for that.
Mhm.
But I'm grateful that I understand that now and just trying to do my best. As you were talking about, your journey from book to TEDx to who you are today, professionally, and that, there's a saying that we would say, and I think you'll agree with this, and it's that, writing a book will change your life. Becoming an author will change your life. And, I wrote my book with a marketing company, and it was published by a New York based publisher. That writing the book put me into book publishing now. So talk about changing their life. I never thought I was going to be a book publisher. Are you kidding me? So, there's an example, but I have, we could call right now and say, did writing a book change your life? And they would say, oh, absolutely. It did this, this, and this. So it's such a positive experience. And it's about experiences. It's not about, how much we can spend on our designer handbags. Not that I'm not looking at them. I'm on a new shopping site and I'm not buying them, but I can window shop.
Exactly. I would so much rather spend money on a book that adds true value, right?
Right.
And it's the modern day business card. There's so many ways to leverage a book. I think about, when I started, my first book and wrote my first book, I researched companies who I could find a correlation with them and confidence. So maybe they had confidence in their marketing campaign or confidence in their copywriting or messaging or something like that. And that was a strategy that I used to really propagate the book, get a lot of interest out there, start, speaking at companies and organizations and adding value. And one of those companies was Mitsubishi. So Mitsubishi Confidence. Well, that's interesting. So I mailed, pardon me, traditional snail mail, the CEO a copy of my book. You know what? He emailed me back That exchange would have never happened if I wouldn't have written the book, if I wouldn't have put myself out there, if I wouldn't have shared. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's
Right.
so much you can do with it. And that's why I say, and you say, that the book is a business card. You treat it like a business card. It's a way to get speaking engagements. It's a way to grow your brand. It's a way to get on the news, get publicity. And, it's interesting, Lisa, nobody believes me when I say this, but it's true. Like, you can look back. I mean, it's online, right? Before my book was published, I landed a TV interview with Fox News about the book. That's what's possible.
Yes.
That's what's possible. Before the
Yeah.
book was published, I also landed my TEDx talk. That's what's possible. Why? Because I believed in this message and I knew it could change people's lives because it already had changed my own.
Right. Right.
And I just
Now,
encourage people to just go for it, right?
yeah. No, absolutely. And, as we also know, and even if, like I said, we're starting our ninth year next month, the landscape in the digital marketing has completely changed, right? It's continuing to change the, crowded nature of book promotion, which is a good thing for all of us, right? The multiple lanes and venues are so different. Um, it is astounding sometimes some of what can happen with the ripple effect. The other thing that's important, and we haven't brought this up, and I know we don't have a ton of time, but I just want to sprinkle this out there. The other important piece on why you should write your book, and especially your brand business book, or if you're a not for profit leader, your not for profit business book, brand book, is that if you haven't put out your content that is correct, authentic, and true, there's already content out there about you. And so you need that book will
Mm.
cement, right? And it's so important. Will cement it. And it will be exactly what you want to have out there. So, there's another important factor and reason, especially if you're in leadership and especially if you have an impactful message that you work with a company to help you bring your book to fruition.
I love that. Your personal brand is going to be built either way. You might as well be the one building it. You might as well be the one telling that story because if you're not, someone else will be. You might as well be the author penning your own narrative. So powerful. Um what a great interview, Lisa. Where can people learn more about you and what you do to serve others?
Thank you. Well, so I have LizaMarieGarcia.com. Of course, learn a little bit about me. Our company is CEO Book Publishing. So CEOBookPublishing.com. Very easy. You can search me. But I also want to let everyone know that I've got my seventh book coming out September 18th. And we landed a Barnes and Noble National book tour. So for 11 months, a different state, doing author events in all the Barnes and Noble. And that book is my first Christian professional business book. And it's called Tell Them of My Greatness, is coming, being launched. And we also have, of course, a website for that.com.
Awesome. Wonderful. I so appreciate this. Thank you so much for the interview today. And thank you for everyone who tuned into this episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a review on Apple. We've got about 978 or something like that reviews on Spotify that are 5 stars, but we could use some love on Apple. So go ahead and put a review with your favorite takeaway from this episode, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.